So for anyone starting out looking for resources, if you don't have your support network ready yet, or you don't feel like they have the ability, the capability, the first place to go to, which I wasn't even aware of until last year, is your GP. You can actually talk to your GP, not just about your physical health, but your mental health. They might not be able to resolve things, but they can refer you to some of the other services. And luckily, if you're in the UK, these are predominantly free. If you think about other countries where you'd have to pay, it will cost you a bombshell. There's a waiting list typically, I guess depends where you are in the country, but the waiting list isn't that bad in all honesty. Obviously, if you're going through a crisis, you need emergency treatment perhaps, or sooner is better, but you don't also have to wait until you're in a crisis situation. You can go now and even just start the conversation while you're in a good place. Talk about what's not going so well in life or what tends to get you down. You'll know some of the loops or the cycles, and then see if there's somewhere that they can refer you to. Then you've got a lot of organizations. I mean, we're new to the game. You know, as Mentalk Ubuntu, we're just part of us starting this is because we didn't see and we didn't know about what else is there. Now that we're in the game, we're starting to see that there are a lot of organizations. The issue is perhaps capacity. So if you look locally, chances are there's somewhere you can go. There's one, and not all of them are facilitated or done with professionals. Some of them are just groups where people meet up. There's one Ray recently went to check out, because we have to engage with some of these so that we can also refer people to them, right? Like there's one called Andy's Man Club, which was started I think 5 years ago, because there's a guy obviously called Andy, committed suicide, and he left a daughter behind. I think it was only 23 at the time, but his friends had no clue that that was going to happen. He texted them like normal the same day it happened, then he just went out into the woods and so forth. I mean, you can check them out. And they've now started opening clubs where you can just go, it's men around a circle and just talk. You don't have to go there because you're going through something, and you don't have to go there to unpack stuff. It's just to talk, so that when something does go wrong, or if it does go wrong, you will go somewhere rather than stay at home or make that permanent decision, shall we say, while you're going through temporary circumstances. You've got places like Mind, you've got the Mental Health Foundation. There's loads of charities. Yet again, if you search on the NHS website, there are the professionals who you can see. You can get referred to a psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, psychotherapist. There's all those other professionals, and it depends what you're going through and what you're experiencing. So I think trauma was mentioned once or twice. You can engage with these services. Someone goes through surveys or asks you a set of questions, checks to see what would be appropriate depending on the kind of trauma. There's groups. Hey, you can even find us if you're a man, but there's places also for women exclusively. So depending on whatever it is that you're going through, there are many services there. You've got YouTube, of course. I mean, you never know. Everyone's different. Some people might just need to listen. There are the big life-saving organizations such as the Samaritans or Crisis Helpline, where people do call in just every day, because they don't take your details necessarily. You just call, someone else is there on the other line, and they listen. And I think a big part of all of this is just finding someone or somewhere that you feel safe enough for someone to listen. Hopefully, it's not when you're in such a low place that you might not want to actually reach out, and you might feel very isolated. I'd say hopefully it doesn't get to that, but make a note of the numbers, because this is the thing that even caught me off guard when I went through some mental health challenges last year. It came out of nowhere. I am not the kind of guy who you would think is going through anything. Like, I'm positive, I'm usually outgoing, I love to talk to people, I love to smile, I love to work. Like, it's hard to find me in a bad mood, it's hard to find me angry. It's a rare one. I don't know what would have happened, and nothing crazy was going on in life.
Was this is this any correlation to what is known as the lockdown blues, like the 2021, everyone trapped in the house? Or
I would say that,
because a lot of people did face that, you know. And
I'd say that exacerbated it probably. It definitely, let's say that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back, but there was a lot of other stuff going on that my daily routine and access to people probably made me forget about. Whereas now when I was stuck in a room like prison, I know we get to that in boarding school, but when you're stuck in a room with your thoughts all day, you can't go out, or you can only go out for an hour. Oh man, like, yeah, I think that's probably, it became, a keg? Like, I don't know, like the ingredients were there for me, like personally, because I'm not used to, well, I wasn't at the time, used to just being stuck in the house. I can be in the office and I can be out, but in the house, no. You wouldn't find me in the house. Pre-lockdown, nah. No, it's not my scene. I have to be going and doing stuff. So that's what, definitely was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. But there were a lot of other things, unaddressed things.
Was it the first time you struggled with mental health in your life?
In that way, yeah. Like anyone, you know, have my own minor issues or whatever. But to the point that I had to reach out because I was just like, what is going on? And scared, basically. Yeah, it was the first time, and it's not been the last time because I addressed that. Then other things came up. In fact, this year, December into this year, and you'd think even I'd learned the lesson, even though we'd started Mentalk Ubuntu, but you just assume you've addressed certain things and it's done. Like, it's fixed, I'm good, let's go. But then something else crops up, because even though I knew it was there, it had nothing to do with that other thing, but I should have probably also addressed it. So now it's this constant journey of, I just need to address all these things so that I can carry on and they don't end up coming up out of nowhere. Because
so have you essentially, like, what I'm hearing is that there are some underlying issues or underlying things. Now, those are usually like very deeper things, like they could stem from childhood, stem from previous traumas. How do you really extinguish that though? Because it's ingrained in you, right? It's part of it shaped you to be who you are now.
Yeah.
And now you're saying, you know, new things came on top of that. So it really enhanced those traumas in you. Now, is it truly, is it possible to overcome traumas that come from childhood? Or is it something that you just kind of deal with, put on a bandage kind of thing, and then move on with life? Because I think that's what a lot of people feel about, you know, I was once, let me even take it to the absolute extreme. I was once like molested as a child kind of thing.
I mean, I guess at the core of it, it's about understanding in the journey of mental health. So let's put it this way, right? Just like when we were addressing your younger self, that's always going to be part of who you are. So you can't overcome it, or you can't ditch it, like fix it and throw it in the trash, because that's you. So the more you try and do that, the worse you're going to feel. Maybe you feel okay now when you do that, but eventually it will somehow catch up to you, because you're saying you hate a big part of yourself. You know, so the idea is you understand, and say you understand that if it was something like abuse or so, it's not your fault. And you see, not just, so most of us would say, I was powerless in that situation. I was weak and I got taken advantage of.
You're the victim.
Yeah, and you're the victim, but you, in a sense, you're almost blaming yourself as the victim. Like, why weren't you strong enough?
That's the thing, especially as a black man, you're not meant to be a victim. Like, you're meant to be like, all right, I'm macho, like I'm
bigger than this.
Yeah, I'm gonna take care of it.
But if you come to accept that I was a kid, I didn't know better, the other person did know better, or you know what, they took advantage of me, or maybe I made a poor decision. You know, I pursued an older woman. Who knows? Whatever it is, like, but you understand why that happened, and you understand that there's no need necessarily to feel shame or guilt for that, then it stops being about how can I put this in the trash. You accept it, you understand why it happened, and it shouldn't bother you as much. It's just like, you don't break up with a chick and stop dating. Well, some people do, but you don't break up with a chick and stop dating because you had a bad experience. Typically, you'd try to understand what led up to the breakup, and you can see the role you played, the role she played, and after that, you try again. That's the typical way, right? Like, but if you don't, then you're stuck. Or if you don't review what you did, what the other person did, chances are it'll creep up again.
Yes.
So I think essentially, like for me, I just now see it as I genuinely want to love myself. I do love myself. And I want to love myself more. I want to give other people the ability to love themselves more and embrace themselves more. I think everyone's awesome where they are. And even when we talk about relationships, a lot of the time, if we talk about meeting people where they are, loving them for where they are, not what they could be, all that sort of thing, because just like if someone's saying to you, you need to be jogging, you need to be doing this, while they might have good intention and they're talking about the potential they can see in you, what they're saying is, as you are right now, I'm not a fan. And you're looking at you in the mirror right now. No matter how you look, no matter if you were like 400 pounds or whatever, that's what someone's saying to you immediately. I don't like you the way you are right now. That's a hard thing to hear.
And it's such a heavy thing in Nigerian culture. I was looking on these memes and these girls are like, oh, why are aunties and uncles always like, aren't you going to get married soon? Or like, when are you going to get married? Or, oh, you've really put on weight. Or like, and then I saw this girl, she's like, this is what you say when they say that. You've really put on weight. You go, auntie, that's so funny. I was just about to say the same thing to you.
Don't try this.
God forbid. No. But that's what you wanted. That's what you wanted.
You want the best deflection for the marriage one is, oh, when you get married, you say God's time, my time. Oh. You can't rush God. So who are we to fight God?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like that. That's not going to get you slapped as well. So.
But I think even if we look in the Black community, how many aunties are single? Because like when you go to a wedding
or happily married,
that's
some are
happily,
some are in situations that they don't want to be in, but the culture
to save face, they have to stay in it just because I can't let everyone know I'm divorced, and they know their husband's like dating the secretary and like has 3 mistresses and like, well, as long as he pays the bills and no one finds out, it's cool. So like it's all a lot of it for sure. And that's a problem because our culture is so strong that it shapes so many of your different decisions and like how you perceive yourself and how others perceve you and everything.
There are pros and cons to our culture though.
Oh,
right?
there's serious cons.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of pros, but a lot of cons. I get like the same thing as you. They would call me Dogo, which is like tall, skinny dude in Nigeria. So I was always like, I'm so skinny. I need to put on weight. I was always like, damn, give me some of your weight, and then I'm gonna put on the gains, and then we're both gonna be happy. But like, so then I'm trying to eat loads, trying to do weights. It's just like work for like 2 months, put on like this much weight. So it's just like the struggle. It's the struggle. So yeah, it's like I think no one's really happy with like when you're a kid. People always have insecurities. Just I feel in like African cultures they emphasize them more and make you worry about it. But then if you actually think about it, all these girls who used to be like, oh, I'm too big. Now they're like really desired and everyone's trying to like get butt injections and boob injections.
Exactly.
Like curves in. But before when they were in school, like, oh my God, I hate my curves. And now they're like, oh, I love my curves. Exactly. And some people are like, oh, I'm so skinny, I'm so hot. And they're like, oh my God, I wish I was more curvy like you. So it's just like, I don't think anyone's actually happy like with themselves. You just have to love yourself, accept yourself, and like try to stay positive and optimistic like us.
That's it.
Indeed.
So Ray, let me ask you a question because we've talked about Nigerian culture and you're from Zambia.
Yeah.
So are there any sort of stigmatisms or any sort of things that the Zambian culture kind of has caused you to not always be positive minded about your situation in life?
I'd say first and foremost, with Zambia being the best African country.
Second.
Number one.
After Nigeria.
How many Olympics?
How many African nations have we won?
Now you see. What kind of measurement is that?
So relative.
You need to use God's measurement.
Oh. Okay.
The most peaceful country ever,
Okay.
It's true. It's the most peaceful country in Zambia, like in terms of no civil wars and things like that. So when you go there, a lot of people are very laid back, happy kind of thing as well. But again, there are still the same African cultures of anything to do with mental health. You should be in a mental institution straight away, tied up and everything else like that.
Is he mad? You know,
exactly. Yeah. And so that's also linked to, you know, what we spoke about previously as well in terms of race, because as we've spoken about even in previous podcasts, is that when you're in Africa, there's no such thing as race. Until you step into the Western side of it, you're black. You're black, and you're like, what? What's black? I'm human. And then there's that differentiation, and then without even you realizing, it starts to affect your mental state. You go into school, you get called this, or you get called, you know, darky, and all these things. But again, you suppress them. But for me, I think, you know, I've never let go of, you know, the actual culture itself. And if anything, even in the Zambian community, I'm always kind of breaking that mold and speaking to even older people about their mental health and what mental health is, because even though they're cognizant it's there, they've never really addressed it. And I came to that realization a long time ago where as much as I had friends, I was like in the same place as you, where the only time I would be with my friends is when we're going out, we're partying, we're getting smashed for drinking. And when it came to my struggles, strifes, and things like that, is that I could most probably tell them high level stuff, but the deeper level stuff, I had to keep to myself. I had to numb myself. I'd had all different mechanisms. And as time went on, I learned that every year requires a different you. And because it requires a different you, it also requires a different circle, because there's a saying that if your friends are like wolves, you're going to learn to howl like wolves. If your friends are like eagles, then you're going to learn to soar great heights. So essentially, I take that everywhere I go. Every single year, I'm improving myself, starting with my mental health and also the people I'm around all the time. Because, you know, if they're doing well and they're winning, the fact that they're winning, I feel like I'm winning as well. And essentially, that also feeds into, you know, my culture and the seeds I kind of give to my daughter as well. Because that whole journey of, you know, culture, mental health has really empowered me to even be a dad I never even thought I would be, kind of thing. And again, it's just a learning curve all the time. As a matter of fact, I was going to ask both of you, because I've also gone through therapy as well, proactively, but at the same time, during that proactive, it was also reactive, and it just came at the right time. And prior to that, I'd never been through. What's your perception of like going to a mental health therapist? You know, prior to this time, would you have ever gone to one? Would you go into one, you know, moving forward?
I think for me, actually, one thing before I start, this is when you said, tell me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you are. That's a proverb that's been used against me, or iron sharpens iron, right? So your network definitely helps shape who you are as an individual. And, you know, this is why we're also doing the podcast, because we're trying to expand people's networks and things like that. So, you know, help each other out, succeed. And, you know, when one person succeeds, you all succeed, kind of thing. So things like that. But now to answer your question, I'm not dodging, don't worry, is I know, personally speaking, personally, I've never gone to therapy in my entire history. And would I have gone to seek therapy for something? I don't know, like a professional? Probably not. But I will say this, I know for a fact, like, you know, if there was ever a problem in, let's say, marriage, or let's say a problem in relationships, you know what a lot of Nigerian culture would be like, oh, you can consult your family. You know, family will be able to, her family and his family can come together and help reside things, or kind of thing, especially if it's on borderline of divorce and things like that. I know that's a thing that's part of our culture, but, you know, that's not always a good thing, right? Yeah. Sometimes you will be required to go to professionals. And sometimes even Nigerian culture will also say this, or at least from my experience, let me not even just say this explicit about Nigerian culture, is like, I know that it's often advised that if you don't go to family, you go to church, you go to your pastor, you go to couples therapy that way kind of thing, but not to a licensed professional that specializes in couples therapy kind of thing. But for me now, as an individual, I'm single, so I don't need to go to couples therapy anytime soon.
It's hard.
Yes,
It's a safe space.
it's a safe space. Thank you, bro. Thank you. I know that I might be a little bit hesitant at first if, let's say, my partner said, hey, let's go talk to someone, because of that mentality, oh, I'm too strong, I shouldn't involve someone else external to us, our relationship, to discuss our issues kind of thing. But I know that it's an option that is readily available to me, and there'll be less of an initial obstacle now to say yes than previously, right? Because I know that I'm not the only one that goes through challenges, and I'm not the only one that would go to therapy. There are other people that there are success stories that have been had from going to therapy, and of course, not every therapy session works, but there's no harm in trying, right?
What a political answer. This guy is a full-on politician.
But you know what?
He's like, let me sit right on the fence and just do both sides of the argument so everyone's happy.
If I was in a relationship. Never mind now. If I was in a relationship. It's cool.
That's my truth. I don't know.
If that's the context you see it potentially happening, that's fair. How about you?
I want to do relationship therapy. I have been to therapy. I went like last year or year before.
Mm-hmm.
Normally though, my therapy is in the tattoo parlor.
Okay.
So like
not the barbershop.
Different type of therapy. If someone close to me dies, I normally get them tattooed on me. So like, speaking of mental health, my friend committed suicide like a few years ago. So we got I got him tattooed. There are 3 of us, so we got 3 crosses. But like, that was actually what made me start realizing men's, because he was like a normal, happy guy, and like he just like hung himself one day, and like no one knew it was coming. So that's kind of when I noticed how bad this men's mental health is. Because, and then I had like not my family, like family friend, he was like I think 16 or something, shot himself in the head with like his family gun, and he was Nigerian, and I'm just like, what? You're like 16, like how? So it is an issue because people don't say anything till it's too late. And the reason I did go to therapy was super deep, so I don't know if I should bring it up on this podcast.
Thank you for listening to Mentalk Ubuntu podcast and being a valued member of our community. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, and other social media now for access to our latest updates. DM us and let us know what your mental health is on a scale of 1 to 5. Thank you.
I feel if you're positive and happy people, when we have bad things, we take mental health worse. Like we get more depressed, because if you're happy 99.9% of the time, when you're really sad or something really bad happens, it like takes you from up here to like, so yeah.
Crazy.
I think that's a good point for anyone intending to try these things out, is to know that they are finite. They do come to an end, and it is your choice whether you continue or not. And the most important thing is knowing that they are available, and that if you feel like you need to, you can go ahead, as and when. You can go for 1 session, stop.
Definitely coming mountain climbing with you guys. You guys will be my new therapists.
Your tattoo parlor is now taking you to mountain.
Tattoo on the mountain while doing therapy and getting a haircut. Get it all done in one day. Exercise, haircut, tattoo, therapy.
That's a good day.
Grief is a hell of a one, because everyone deals with it in their
Eventually.
Yeah.
My normal way is like, just coping mechanisms. Party like a rock star, and like just like ignoring. But then that literally doesn't get resolved, because then 2 years later you're like, something will remind you and you'll set you off and trigger you. Like, damn, I was listening to this song with my boy. Shit, I miss it, man. Because you're driving and you're like crying and shit.
Because this goes back to that. I don't want us to unpack it too much, but I think it goes to this point. Like, the loss has happened. It's you learning how to deal with the loss and getting your own tools, or learning how to address the thoughts. That's pretty much it. Like, therapy or engaging with services or all this is to just get you more familiar with how to deal with these things. It's not a unique fixing. You
True.
just don't know the questions to ask, and you don't know the things to do. And that's what these things exist. Like someone has gone away, studied, had years of this, had their own issues. In fact, one of our guests in season 2 she does couples therapy, and very insightful. You know, like you can't beat it.
You're absolutely right. You know, there's every single journey with therapy has a beginning, has a middle, has an end. But how people change and going through that journey, it definitely is unique to them. And hopefully, you know, some people's journeys are set for that set time. Some might need it longer. So, and I don't even know why I didn't even bring this up earlier, but my friend Fian, who I talked to, my childhood friend, and my sister, they both went to medical school, you know, doctors, lawyers, engineers. That's the only option they had to choose, but they followed through it. And funny enough, they've now specialized to be psychiatrists. So, and they themselves often now they're trying to break the stereotypes of Black people in that go to therapy, or even not even therapy, because sometimes the people that go to psychiatrists are, you know, chemical imbalance and needs like that hardcore medication, and then, you know, going to have therapy on the side to help them go through their stuff. And it's amazing to me how one, that they're able to even get in there, and then they've learned so much more and gained more appreciation for mental health, and how it's hard to talk about in our cultures, but it is a thing. And I'm also now in agreement with them that as we grow up, as our generations evolve, we're now more readily talking about these things, right? So it's not so much a taboo as it was for our parents, right? So people are now openly talking about, you know, it's stressing me out, or I'm going through some stuff, and then people are able to talk more about it. So we're happy about that. But, you know, we can't blame everything on, you know, oh, you're upset, so you can't just go to therapy. Some things could be a chemical imbalance. Some things you might need to actually go to medicine to go resort. So, but yeah, I think all in all, there's options for everyone, and, you know, good, bad. You have network in us and your podcast, and your friends, family, and professionals that you can speak to about it. So we're very thankful for having you guys come on our episode, and, you know, vice versa. Hopefully your audience has learned great stuff, like Big D's chocolate favorite.
I'm single.
Chocolate. Single. Yes. All you ladies out there, you know. I don't know. Do you guys do video? I don't know why I keep like clicking in this camera.
They heard the voice.
All right.
Voices are not.
All right. So
We do video.
yeah. So how is it that some of our listeners, our YouTube watchers, are able to connect with you guys or your podcast?
Yeah, I mean, just search Mentalk Ubuntu. You've got us on all the social media platforms, pretty much: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We've got our podcast out as well. You can watch us and see our lovely faces on YouTube, of course. And if you subscribe, if you link and connect with us, that's it. You've got a direct line to the top. So drop us an email, drop us a message, say what's up.
Come climb some mountains with us.
Yes,
Or
sir.
you know, go cave diving, or
They'll go
full of
cave diving.
dunking. What was it? Splunking.
Yes. Some Batman.
Yes,
stuff.
exactly.
Yeah, that sounds very cool.
That's hardcore, man.
Try something
Man,
new.
you want to be like Batman, don't you?
That's true.
Yeah,
actually.
exactly.
I do want to be like Batman.
All right. True.
If you want to talk about something different, if you want to try something different, and if you want to expand your network to have different people, that's all we're trying to do.
Nice.
And I think it's important to mention, because when we speak about mental health, you know, it's quite vague as well. When it comes to mental health, I always use the analogy of a bucket. You've got all the different things in the bucket. You've got your life, relationship, work, anything else that happens, all in the bucket. So if one thing's affected, everything's always affected. And it's all about ensuring that, you know, you've got the right people around you. And even if it's the case that you find it hard to, you know, share such things, the best thing, I remember reading an article that said, you know, not just men, but also people as well, they speak better shoulder to shoulder as opposed to face to face. So as soon as you say to someone, you know what, let's go for a walk, let's try something different. I kid you not, you'll be able to unlock all sorts of conversations and just, and you use that channel to kind of understand what the true mental health or what issues every day you're going through. And that just enables you. So, that can even be just a starting phase if you want to start, before you go to see a therapist or anything, just because, as I said, with my journey, it was the case of I used to party for a lot of people, but I never had that open space. And ever since Mentalk Ubuntu, we go out and it's just like your mental health in your life is a journey, and that's the same journey that we take on the actual hike from beginning to end, knowing that it's a consistent journey. There's going to be times we're going to stop, there's going to be times it's going to be hard, but we're all going to support each other essentially. So yeah, if anyone wasn't too sure or clued up on what mental health is, that's what it is. That's what we're here for, to help support you. And yeah, just a message away, really.
That's it. Nice one. All right, Chi, do you want to tell about their audience about different roots?
So, no. Different Roots Radio. Dami and I, episodes released every 2 weeks on a Monday. And find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, everything. Yes. Different entrepreneurs each week. We talk to them about their lives, their journeys, their obstacles, and motivations. We try to learn it, like you said, grow our network, introduce you to different industries, let people know about different careers out there, which aren't being a doctor, lawyer, or one of the main engineer. So yeah, we've had some really interesting people who own fashion brands, who's your bearded fellows?
Bearded fellows, so in marketing.
Yes. All sorts of businesses, female business, powerful business women.
Yes, that's right. Dentists.
Yes. We like to have a diverse crowd, so we
from all over the world, different roots, different paths, different journeys, different results, but they all blossom to be something wonderful, right? It's like a flower. So
this guy's a real politician.
Oh, thank you.
Smooth with it.
Mic drop.
Mic drop.
All right. And just like that, we out.
Hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed creating.
Don't forget to follow, like, share, and connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our latest episode and listen to any you missed. And tune in next episode.
Take care.